I know that, just from living in Europe, right, being born out there, that property management, like it's done in the United States, it's like different than pretty much anywhere across the globe, anywhere else. And I want you to share with us, what are some differences in like other parts of the world, how property management is done?
I will tell you that the first thing is you hit it on the head. We call it purpose-built rental housing. We just call it multifamily in the U.S. But historically, outside the U.S., it was all kind of condo buildings. So each apartment was owned by somebody, and they rented it to someone. And what's really interesting is, there's no fair housing. So you pick who you want to live in your home or your condo. That was probably the first thing. When I think back to a lot of the differences, obviously, Germany was a place that was very interesting because they rented apartments with no kitchens. And you brought your own kitchen when you moved in, which was really kind of interesting. We provided kitchens. And so when they came in, they were like, oh, so we get this too? And we're like, yeah, this is part of it. I can remember a story where they told me that a single owner would go to rent their place. They would post something on the internet and say, hey, I've got a 2-bedroom apartment. I'm going to show it at 5 o'clock on Thursday if you want to come and look at it. Droves of people would go. The owner would stand to the side and watch everybody go through and kind of pick who he or she wanted. In China, they wouldn't show me an apartment because they were like, we don't want expense because we're afraid you're going to pack up and move back to the US or the UK and not be responsible for our rent. It was an experience, and we really learned a lot as we went. Culturally, everything was different in each country, and so we had to be very adaptive in how we did that. And then the regulations were different too.
What are the opportunities for us as an industry, US, to export this model all over the world and actually, make an impact and also, be successful as businesses? Because, at the end of the day, this is what it's all about, making money for the investors, for the owners.
One of the challenges was that we really didn't have vendor partners like we do in the U.S. It's like wide plethora. I mean, I could pick up the phone and call a whole lot of different vendors and they know exactly what I'm talking about and what I need from them, and that didn't exist. We really had to work with teams, especially when you're talking about turnkey, those kind of things that you need every single day. It's really difficult. That was one big thing. I think the other is that when you're building an industry outside the U.S., that there's no, I call it baggage. The people we were hiring and working with saw everything from this great, fresh perspective, and there were no like, oh, we've always done it this way. And so that really was exciting because we were getting all kinds of really great ideas from everybody about how to market our business.
What are some challenges that you saw in scaling up a business from a smaller number to a huge number? And secondly, what are some lessons that you have learned that you would like to share about scaling a business?
You've got to put people in place in order to take a hard look at how you can scale or where you need to scale. And the first thing you need to do is really listen to where your pain points are, because they're going to be really obvious. Where are you seeing turnover in your organization because you're burning people out? How you can resolve those things. A lot of times we got committees together and just put them together and really had a lot of conversations around what is the answer to making this more efficient. I will also say there's a lot of times that we think that we can keep doing what we're doing with the people that we have, and you need to take a really hard look at some of the teams that you have to make sure you've got the right people in the right seats. Make sure that they have the capability of that growth. Some of them want to grow at that rapid pace, some of them don't. And so really understanding the teams that you have and where you're missing the mark. So getting the people in there that are supportive, and I'm going to throw that word change in there, that makes people really nervous. You've got to make sure that any transition plans or process change you're making, that you get everybody involved in it. You get them to understand why you're making those changes and not just to change for the sake of it, and how you're trying to help them and get them involved in it, because you need those champions along the way to make sure that everybody gets on board. It's a lot smoother.